Atlanta Track Club.
Thank you.
It is 2020, and we have our masks on. If you're comfortable and we are social distancing here with 2 benches, to take these off, we could do that?
Sure.
Okay, great. So again, welcome here to the Atlanta Track Club. And maybe I'll just start with a quick introduction of who I am, the track club, and why we're here at this Common Grounds today.
Perfect.
Okay, great. So I'm Kara Finley. I'm a member, the vice chair of the Atlanta Track Club Board of Directors. And I'm here on behalf of the track club to have a conversation about social justice issues and race. So the Atlanta Track Club was started in 1964, and a key part of our vision and mission is to have a healthier Atlanta through running and walking. We're the second largest running club in the nation. And in light of recent social justice issues, including the killing of Ahmaud Arbery here in Georgia earlier this year, we decided to take a pause, stop our stopwatches, and start to have conversations about social justice issues and race. Part of his killing was certainly just undermines our belief that we should have no fear wherever we are and whomever we are to be able to go outside and run and to be injured or killed. So we're committed to having these anti-racist discussions, and I think that really begins with listening and trying to understand. And so a brief description of the Common Ground is that these benches that we're sitting on are made from recycled water bottles from the 50th running of the AJC Peachtree Road Race last year.
I was there.
Okay, awesome. I have my 50th shoes on as well. And as part of that, this is part of our sustainability program, but we are giving these benches to nonprofits, organizations, schools, and with the thought of having this conversation. And so we're leaning into organizations like yours to learn from you and to have that conversation on a common ground on these benches today.
Fantastic.
Great. So thanks again, Ghila, for coming. Maybe just tell us who you are and a little bit of your background.
Sure. So my name is Gila Sanders. I am originally from Rome, Italy. I was born and raised there. My family goes back many, many generations, and I grew up Jewish in the Jewish community of Rome. Not very many people know that there's a Jewish community there because, oftentimes you think about Rome as the capital of Catholicism. But the Jewish community is one of the oldest Jewish community in the world, and in fact the oldest one in Europe. It's been there for 22 centuries, so there's a lot of heritage there that I carry around. And I was not planning to leave, but as we all find out at some point in our lives, plans can be overrated. And so I met my husband David in Rome. He's from here. In fact, he's from Atlanta, and he was working overseas, and we met there, and that was pretty much it. That was that. So we traveled back and forth for a while, eventually got married and settled here. We have 3 kids who are teenagers right now, 2 dogs. We have 9 passports between the 5 of us and 2 countries that we consider home. We were able to bring the children back to live there for 3 years, and so they really got to know the places and the family, and so that's home for all of us.
Wonderful. And do they speak Italian?
They do.
Wonderful. My old next door neighbor, the same thing. So that was always impressive. So you're part of with the Roswell Arts Fund.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and some of its history?
Sure. So the Roswell Arts Fund was established in 2014 as an independent nonprofit. In 2015, it became the designated art agency for City of Roswell. So it was established to really, strengthen the conversation about the arts, strengthen public places, excite the imagination, and make the case that the arts bring communities together, can be a common ground for important conversations, and also drive not only social unity but economic flourishment. So it's about advancing the community, coming together, strengthening Roswell as a destination for the arts.
Wonderful. Maybe back to you and as a runner. So are you're a member of the track club?
I am.
And are you a runner, a walker? What's your favorite distance?
So I would say I'm an avid runner and a serial walker. My favorite distance, I think, is the half marathon, and the Thanksgiving half may be my favorite one. It's very much of a social run for me. We usually go in pack and we chit-chat the entire length, and then it's Thanksgiving, so what can be better?
That's my favorite as well. Although I've done the Peachtree Mitten many years as a family tradition. I
Yes.
always love the half marathon and having your turkey.
I have to say I resisted the Peachtree for many years, in part because we tend to go to Italy during the summer, but also I thought, it's July 4th in Atlanta and that sounds miserable. And then I started running it and it's an amazing experience. So that's
we'll look forward
one
to
of
that hopefully next year.
Yes.
So realizing it's not necessarily your job, but I'm just curious about guidance that you would have on issues of race and running, and what, from your art organization to a running organization, but what could we do as the Atlanta Track Club to help more constructive dialogue when it comes to social justice?
Yeah, I think, so first of all, I really do believe that as nonprofits, we're all in this together. And so we're learning from each other and with each other. I will give the same advice that I give myself every morning right now, which is twofold. The first thing is commit to the work, and the second part is pass the mic. And what I mean by that is, commit to the work. I think we all feel this sense of urgency right now to be part of the conversation, to activate, to do things. We also have time right now because we're in the middle of a pandemic and our world has changed dramatically and slowed down in many ways. But we'll be hectic again, things will pick up and we'll be very busy and we'll have a million other fires to put out. And so we need to be very intentional about committing to the work and making sure that these conversations don't fall behind. And then the other thing is pass the mic. I think we really do not, I speak for myself, I do not want to take anything for granted or make any assumptions. And so I know my story, but I don't pretend to know yours or anybody else's. And I think it's important that as nonprofits, we create those places that enable others to use their voices. And so, that we share the space and not empower rather than speak for others.
Well, maybe outside of the nonprofit organizations, what advice or guidance do you have for the citizens of Roswell, for Atlanta, the Metro Atlanta? What can we do to help as individuals even start to address racism and make improvements?
So I think the number one thing is don't sit this one out. Don't sit back and just watch, but get in the middle of it, ask questions, participate, find a way to be an active part of these conversations, and also start thinking about all the things that we can each do to be part of the change and to fill the gap. I think we all have ways that we can contribute to these conversations. And going back to nonprofits, I think as nonprofits we have the responsibility and the opportunity to be community weavers and facilitate those conversations. But ultimately, once we put in place those frameworks, it will be up to people to take the chance and actually connect, right? And so my advice is connect, do whatever you can to find a bench and start a conversation.
So don't be silent.
Yeah, exactly. Just, take a stand, get involved, because I think, sometimes it's very easy to look at what's happening and think, this is something that is important to me, but I see that there's already movement out there. For me, it's about taking that step. Words matter a lot, but actions matter a lot too, and so let's activate.
Okay. So let me give you a phrase and see if you can complete this. So the canvas that I will paint for our city will look like and represent blank.
Okay, so the canvas that I will paint for my city, it is not my painting at all, but much more of a collective piece of art. It will look like, I'm picturing a tree, like maybe one of those big old oak trees that have very strong roots and, kind of twisty branches that extend and stretch and go in every direction, feeding life into new leaves and acorns and, the promise of new life. I think that represents our community, and also the fact that we're just a moment in time. There's a much bigger picture out there.
I can visualize it. How can you take that, what it represents, and potentially turn that more into reality?
So maybe we focus on that bigger picture and really work together to start rethinking our processes and our systems and see what we can do to really get under some of the root causes that took us where we are right now. I think we have a lot of these conversations that are heavy at the moment, but these are not new conversations. This is an opportunity for us to take a good look at what's happening and think again in terms of processes and systems and what we can do to change some of that. I can see it, for our organization. When we talk about public art, oftentimes we have these, open processes and open calls, for artists out there to submit their pieces, and the questions that we ask matter. And so, taking a good look at that and making sure that we are, open and welcoming, that we make it very clear that we want to be representative. Those things are small steps that we can take as an organization, but I think, in our daily lives, just look at the processes and systems.
That makes a lot of sense. So, you've talked a bit, how nonprofits working together. What are any thoughts that you have about the Roswell Arts Fund and the Atlanta Track Club? Any things that we could do jointly or together or to help each other when it comes to trying to address racism?
Yes. I think, again, going back to nonprofits as community weavers, I would love for us to weave community together. You have an incredible audience, and we have so many beautiful paths, and I know there's a lot of runners in our area, and so bringing people together to have conversations, whether it is through joint events where we can have the opportunity to have conversations, find that common ground that oftentimes in running is very much this passion for movement and for health, and there's so much to us that is shared and in common, I think, in general as humans, and sometimes we focus on the things that are not shared, but there's plenty that can provide that stable base from which to grow. So I would love to do more things together. We work a lot with the biking community in Roswell, and I would love to involve runners more. So we'll be relying on you guys.
And even Roswell does have beautiful running and biking paths. I've done quite a bit up there on the river and throughout the city, so I absolutely agree to that. Question, when you hear the term common ground, you've mentioned it and I've given some of the background here, but any other thoughts on what that means to you and potentially our organizations?
Yeah, it goes back to society to me. It goes beyond what each individual organization does, right? And so, the common ground in humanity in general, I think we tend to have the same emotions. We have a lot of differences, but the bottom line is that people, want to be accepted and celebrated. I think growing up in the Jewish community of Rome, I always say that if you are Jewish in Europe today, you're either a survivor, the son of a survivor, the child of a survivor, or the grandchild of a survivor. And growing up, there was so much talk about tolerance as this, one thing that we were all striving for. And then now I'm thinking tolerance, that is not a word that I want to embrace. I think tolerance is a very good first step, but I don't want to be tolerated, and I don't want to tolerate others. I want to accept and embrace and celebrate. And so common ground to me means, finding that base that allows us to be curious about each other and eventually to celebrate each other in a society that is not scared anymore.
The acceptance and the celebration of those differences.
Yeah,
what everyone brings together.
Exactly. I think there's a lot of fear. At the bottom of hatred, I always believe that there's fear. And so conversations very often take that edge off. I want to be optimistic and think that we have the opportunity to actually, get to know each other and go beyond prejudices and what we see or what we think we see that is oftentimes really not there.
So another question for you. Do you think that organizations like the Atlanta Track Club, the Roswell Arts Fund should be having these conversations? Is it an appropriate place for nonprofits to be talking about acceptance and celebration of differences?
I really do. I think, well, as the Atlanta Track Club, you deal with sports and with walking and running. Sports has always been that place where you want people to come out, regardless of everything, of race, ethnicity, creed, age. You bring people together, and the arts is the same way. The arts, at the core is just a form of expression, right? And we want to make sure that as an arts organization, we are as inclusive and representative of the community as possible. Plus, I think we all have a responsibility to have these conversations. So yes, absolutely. I don't think we need to shy away. I don't see this as a political issue. I see it as a human issue. And so it's up to all of us to actually, participate.
Well, thank you very much, Ghila, for joining us today. And I do hope, as you mentioned, that there's so many wonderful places in Roswell and athletic places for running, walking, biking, etc.
And talking now.
And so as you find the spot for these benches, the bench that we'll give you, then I look forward to seeing it there. And thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And so we kind of took a good look at the things that we were doing and shifted some of our programs to, to really tackle the moment and serve the community in ways that it.
So I don't want to make you waste this, because I feel like it's good. So can you just kind of answer, what are your programs or initiatives where you guys creating?
What programs have you done with?
Okay.
So one other question, just with the Roswell Arts Fund, what type of programs or activities have you done related to diversity and inclusion?
So I came on board with Roswell Arts Fund about a year ago. In fact, tomorrow is my 1-year anniversary. And the organization has done already a lot of things to, again, bring community and being as representative as possible into City of Roswell. And so we have, again, open calls every time we have an art installation, and we have quite a bit of diversity within the artists that are then represented. But I came on board in September, and then after my first 3 months of learning more about the community, the pandemic hit. And so we have been working from home and at the same time really taking a good look at our programs and trying to figure out how to serve community in a way that is meaningful for the moment. And so among the things that we're launching now are a number of different projects that I think touch really well on the inclusion and diversity. The first one is, we just launched it actually on Friday. It's called Pop-In Performances, and we're bringing musicians. We created a mobile stage, like a trailer that we readapted as a mobile stage, and we are driving to senior living facilities to begin with, and bringing music to the seniors who have been stuck indoors for a long time and will continue to be stuck indoors for the foreseeable future. And so we want to make sure that we're not just asking people to come to us, but in this moment where people can't really do that we can bring that experience to them. And so we park in the parking lots and ask people to look out the windows or their balconies or come outside and sit nicely spaced and enjoy an art experience that way. So we started with senior living facilities. We're going to high density housing, apartment buildings, low income housing next. And I think, again, we want to make sure not only that we're representative in the art that we bring in, but also in the audiences that we interact with. The other thing is that we're launching a photography outdoor exhibition in October, and that will be a 3-part exhibition that will go throughout the year. And we created some themes that revolve around the characters of Roswell. So we are rivers, we're forward thinking, we are colors, and the way people are encouraged to submit photographs and interpret those themes vary tremendously. So it's not just about Roswell, it's about sustainability, it's about diversity and inclusion, it's about the environment and the people ultimately. And so we've had submissions from all over the world and plenty of pictures that were not taken in Roswell of people and places that again relate back to this idea of, of being forward thinking, being together, being representative. This is one world that we got. So I'm excited to be launching these new things and see how the community reacts.
Yes, I think that's wonderful, and in particular it hits home. My father-in-law was in an assisted living right there off of Mimosa Drive for many years.
We just went there. They were their first ones.
And then he would go to the senior adult activity center certain days of the week, so that really hits home for me, and having many other family friends and others in elderly care facilities. That's a great place to start.
Thank you. It was an incredibly heartwarming and exhausting day. But it was beautiful and incredibly touching. I think we cried at every stop because it's just to see how people reacted, and they were clapping and tapping their feet and singing along, and so grateful to have that kind of connection again and entertainment. It was really meaningful.